Greetings to all of you. Presently, I'm sitting in Hungary, near Budapest, in the houses of the Goddess, which is absolutely dedicated to life mysteries, of which the Crone phase of the Goddess is absolutely a part of. Since all the transformations, all our initiations are deeply concerned and
Is it bothering you if I play this?
the Crone
Only because
phase. For today, I have chosen the topic of Baba
I have to
Yaga,
play through them all, and
an
I only have till the end
ancient
of
Earth
October to
Mother
do it,
Goddess,
to tape them,
which later
because we were supposed to buy it
became
in
known
August
as
to really use it.
Folktale,
They only give you 3
let's say,
months, but
heroine.
we just bought it.
And of course, Baba Yaga is much more than that. For today's presentation, I have chosen her stories, because there wasn't only one tale of her, and all the transformation, the initiation powers that she holds up for us as a torch, so that she can show a way for all of us pathfinders in an absolutely new kind of era. We do not have any blueprints how we should create our life. Basically, at the moment of this time of humankind, we are all trying to find new ways, and we would like to, hopefully, would like to learn from the lessons of the past. So I have a point here, which I'm going to come back at the end of my presentation. I believe that we are absolutely on the threshold, on the very space where the greatest transformation can happen. We are in the midst of our initiation as humankind.
To you.
And therefore I have chosen Baba Yaga for us today to have the initiation powers of hers, and let's walk this path together. Presently I am in Budapest and presenting with all the background of the beautiful, absolutely invaluable painting Randy Andrew, probably all of you know. So I've chosen the Crone, of course, with the cauldron, and at the background the cave. And I've chosen the end of the initiation, when we have found our ways, we have found our paths, walk our talk, and we are just the emissaries of light, and we embody Goddess. And in between, you can find Crone with the initiation, which is Baba Yaga for me. And I would like to share in a couple of seconds a presentation about her. So if you haven't heard anything of Baba Yaga, then here are some pictures that you can just have a look. She, of course, is thought to have iron teeth, a very long nose, usually of some kind of iron too. She is wearing ragged clothes and skulls, skeletons all around. Sometimes she has chicken legs, or just simply a skeleton herself. And if you look around all the pictures, you see the freaking, frightening features that usually became a part of all the bedside stories. And even for us Hungarians, who are not Slavic people, but we also have the roots of the same story, or at least a similar one, and I'm going to come back to it. That is the point here. But all around Middle Europe and Eastern Europe, and even I could say, even Germanic languages, even Celtic people have some sort of Baba Yaga characters with them. What do we have here? So she's living in the midst of a forest, which is a threshold, of course, and we can't really decide if she's alive or she's already a goddess, or she is a dead person, basically all of them. But she does strange things, which is frightening enough for children. And of course, parents used it for centuries. That if you don't do this, don't do all the household chores, then Baba Yaga is going to eat you up. Because this is what she does. If you don't do something correctly, actually, as she would like you to do that, then this is what she does. She eats you all up. And of course, it has a mythical meaning, a symbolic meaning, much more than that. So let's step into this story. As you can see, Baba Yaga and all the tales of hers, with my outline I tried to show you, I'm going to talk about the symbols of the tales of hers, the door, the mother's blessing, the forest, maturation, and the initiation as such.
Bless you.
A bit of etymology, and most importantly, linked to the goddess of regeneration.
That's no problem.
Linked to midwives,
Enjoy.
Baba, this is how we say in
Love
Maghari,
you too.
which we have a meaning later on
Hey
for
Jake,
you
is it
too.
okay if we go to a band
And
tonight?
especially a distortion to iron-nosed hair from
We may be
goddess,
gone when you
actually.
get home then.
A distortion to witches and the queen of the witches.
Are you gonna wake up tomorrow?
I'll have
Showed
dinner
lots
ready.
of meaning for all these symbols.
Is there any particular
And
kind
of
of...
course, we're going to remember those symbols and find the connection to the regeneration
That's doable.
goddess. So from sacred to doomed and
plain
back
chicken?
again, we're going to find our path,
Chicken breast.
which is our remembering and our path of initiation.
Potatoes with stuff in them?
First, I would like to start with Vasilisa the Beautiful, which is
Just
most
fries,
probably
right?
the most well-known
Just
tale of
my-
Baba Yaga. There are many,
my-
but that's probably that you might have
Just like
heard
basically
about.
fries, just cut up
Vasilisa
more.
is the heroine, the
That's
main
the whole
character
practice
of
of
this
Just cut up
story,
one
and
more,
it is
or
not
one
Baba
less?
Yaga, which you probably
One more.
might have thought about.
To cut it halfway.
It is a famous Russian
Roasted
fairy
blocks of
tale,
potatoes.
and the heroine
roasted rocks.
is
So
a
do the
beautiful,
fries,
of
but then
course,
cut them a little
innocent
more.
girl who has lost her mother and who is sent
Yeah.
by her jealous stepsisters to bring
Love you
fire
too.
from frightful
You're the
witch
best.
Baba Yaga.
Presentation tomorrow.
This was recorded by renowned folklorist Alexander Nikolaevich Afanasyev, who collected and published more than 600 Russian folk tales in the middle of 19th century. But this does not mean that this was his tale, and doesn't mean, of course, that this was sometimes the time when these tales, the Baba Yaga stories, or Vasilisa the Beautiful, was born. Here in the picture, you can see that Baba Yaga lives in a hut, actually, which has chicken legs and which is actually revolving around. And there is a secret saying that you can make it stop. And of course, it is only the initiated who can stop it. For most, Baba Yaga can do it. She is very strange. It is not just the place, the surroundings of her, which is strange, but he is, as you can see, surrounded by a fence made of skeleton and stones and of course skulls. And these skulls
I can
are
go
just
put this in a
simply
different room.
frightfully
Would that work?
lighting.
No.
Just imagine it when you are in the midst of darkness and you are
They say yours, I
approaching
think.
the neighborhood of hers. This is what it actually happens when you are on some sort of rites of passage in your own life. When we start out from being a child, from being a little girl, and then a come of age happens through anarchy, and then as we go on to our maturation and become initiated into love, find our partner, make into it being family and having children, and of course giving birth as a blood mystery, the major threshold in it. And then later on we, with menopause, got into the age of the crone phase. And then of course the gate of death, which comes at the end. So all of these rites of passages, thresholds, gates, I would say gates of our lives, there is Baba Yaga, or one aspect of hers, to help, not to frighten you off. But of course, it is only those who call her on correct names, as we say in our Hungarian tales, Regasszony, Regasszonynak szólítasz, which means if you call her respectfully, which actually comes back with Baba, Babushka in Russian, which means grandmother, elderly lady as well. So if you show respect, and if you know that you come purposefully to her and you're searching for her to help her through your initiations, then your initial fright would become curiosity, and then you're going to find a better and a braver yourself in the midst of her territories. Coming back to her, as you can see again in the picture, she is not the usual witch using only the broomstick and flying on it. She rather uses a mortal, just basically like a cauldron, usually made of iron or wood. And she just steps into it, and this mortar is going to fly. She uses her broomstick actually to sweep the tracks of her so that nobody can find her. So let's just go on with Vasilisa. It's beautiful, the story of hers. In the very beginning, we got to know that Vasilisa's mother, at a young, early age, is going to die. And in a dying bed, that's bad actually, she is giving Vasilisa a doll, in some varieties, a puppet. But I have to say that this magical puppet or doll is bearing Vasilisa's mother's blessing. And the mother says, anytime you have any sort of trouble, just call to this doll, and this is going to help you. Through my blessing, I am going to help you. The only thing you have to do is to ask for help and give the doll to eat. So you have to feed this doll. And soon after, the mother is given these, let's say, message, teaching, like, and present. Together with the blessing, she dies. Now Vasilisa remains all alone with his father. And of course, after the mourning period, Vasilisa's father would like to rewed and remarries and chooses a woman who's going to become a stepmother, of course, having two stepsisters, and becomes a wicked mother. Whereas the original, the biological mother, was benevolent with all the blessings, representing the great goddess, the mother goddess's benevolence. Here we have, as usually in tales, a wicked mother character, a stepmother. And of course, this mother tortures her. She has to do all the household chores instead of the sisters. She has to do wash the dishes and clean up the house, whereas the others do nothing. Still, the jealousy grows day by day, because Vasilisa is really beautiful and getting even more beautiful and attracting men all around. And she is coming to age, and she is looking nicer and nicer, more beautiful and beautiful.
It's okay. It was just
and of course, people would like to come and then propose to her, and the mother doesn't want to give Vasilisa to them, not just because she doesn't want Vasilisa to be more beautiful than her own girls, but of course she doesn't want Vasilisa, the youngest, become the first to get married, because this is not the tradition which would go to normal. And of course, the trouble begins here. And she gives more and more tasks to do. Probably any of us could even imagine how we could do it. But we can actually, because this is what our modern life does to us. So maybe if you are also in the story already. But coming back to the story. So what Vasilita does, day by day, in the evening, after having done the chores, she goes back to the door, feeds her, and asks advice. And usually the door helps. Not just giving advice, but doing the chores that she couldn't have done instead of herself. So becomes a helper. And of course, they don't like it, what she does. And they find out the trick.
Should I introduce Greg Bond to?
They light a candle, and in the middle of the night, they have all sorts of
to,
things to do. And of
Bill
course,
Welichka?
the candle is going to go thin. And then one of the sisters just blows
No, he
it
wants to
out,
do
of
them.
course,
He'd heard about 'em,
accidentally. At least this is what she says. And all of a sudden, the darkness is all around the house. And they say that they don't even have any more fire in the fireplace. They don't have any more fire. They don't have any candlelight. So they should send Vasilisa, the youngest one, to fetch light, to bring fire from Baba Yaga, from the woods. So the initiation actually begins here because Vasilisa goes to the darkness and steps into the forest. And of course, her head is full of the stories of Baba Yaga and is absolutely fearsome. But she listens to her mother's blessing and message, and she takes the puppet in her pocket with herself and steps into the forest. And when she arrives, she sees all the skeletons, all the skulls, and all the fence and all the fearful creature that Baba Yaga is herself. But she just, somehow bravely says what she came for, because Baba Yaga is asking upon meeting her, what does she want? And she says, I came to fetch some fire from you because we don't have any more light in our house. And the Baba Yaga recognizes her and says, I know of you. I know that you would come, and I also know the story of your family. So she lets her in, and here comes a point. It is not only the surroundings that is interesting here, and Baba Yaga herself that lets the yet uninitiated Vasilisa into her realm, but all the magical surroundings, how she dwells. And this is the point when initiation starts, when you become acknowledged into the space of the threshold, of unknown, of basically nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. And Vasilisa, on the way of hers, meets 3 horses, which are basically 3 helpers of Baba Yaga, which have a point. First, she met the white horse and then the red and the black horse. And it turns out that when the white horse appears, it becomes dawn, and soon morning, and the morning has broken. When the red horse comes, it turns out to be noon. And when the black horse comes, it is going to be, of course, twilight zone, and night has arrived. It is already strange when you read the story, and you might be aware that these helpers are all about some sort of cyclical helpers of Baba Yaga. And if you are of goddess culture, which I'm sure you are, you know that this has a meaning. So we're going to come back to these 3 horses and other helpers that Baba Yaga has. So day by day, actually 3 days, that Vasilisa is going to spend and doing all the chores, the deeds that Baba Yaga asks her to complete. and of course does everything. And the story basically repeats itself in a way, because it is not only the stepmother asking her to do overwhelming amount of chores, but it's also Baba Yaga is asking her to do many things, and sometimes not just the amount of task, which is just overwhelming, but things that we would say nonsense chores to do. And of course, Vasilisa is asking her doll, feeding her all the time, and the doll helps her. And by the end of the 3 days,
I'm in a good round.
They are
good routine.
by night. They're talking to each other.
So what do you think about tonight, Lauren?
Because during the 3 days, no conversations. It was
I don't know. They open at 7, so we'd have to leave here about 4.
Things Vasilisa should do. And
maybe we could leave earlier and go to what's her name's house first.
Well, here she's having questions.
I'll leave that down in a minute.
Brave enough to ask a question about the 3 horses, and this is the point when she becomes aware what the 3 horses meant, and Baba Yaga tells and teaches her that the 3 horses were the 3 parts of day, morning, daylight, and night. And they are the helpers of her. And Vasilisa has another question she would like to ask about the 3 hands, which are also appearing to help Baba Yaga magically, but she doesn't ask this question. And Baba Yaga is very happy about it, because she says you shouldn't ask so many questions, otherwise you become old very early. So basically she's pleased with Vasilisa. And then Baba Yaga has questions about how it happened that Vasilisa was so skillful, so diligent that she could do the task that she was asking for, and how on earth that she's so good as a child. And Vasilisa is answering that she has a helper, and it was her mother's blessing that helped her. She doesn't tell actually about the doll, but she shouldn't do so, because Baba Yaga already know about it. Of course, it is not revealed in the story, but for an all-knowing character, Goddess feature, it's obvious. And here comes a point when you as a reader or as a listener would probably realize that Vasilisa holds on to this doll, and through this actually to her mother's memory, and she feeds her doll as her mother was asking her to do, and thus she's able to keep her mother's blessing alive. She fulfills her mother's image, and her way of life, and her model as a feminine model. She remains to her real self, and her mother's heritage remains true to it. And this is her secret, and she reveals the blessing part of it. And Baba Yaga says there is no room for any blessings, and especially not a blessed girl in her house. And she says that immediately she should leave her house. And this is a time when she gives Pozsgal, which is lighting, and she says, take this fire and take this light to your house and go back home. This is time to return. Basically, this is, you should say, end of story, part 1, end of story, part initiation. But it is very important part, because as you can see in the pictures too, I've chosen them
Did you have
deliberately.
Lots of sleep?
At the beginning, I've chosen white pictures, and I've chosen here red pictures, because she comes out from this initiation procedure, but already emerges from this unknown territory, not only unharmed, but stronger and cleverer than before, actually aware of herself, who she is, and her dedication to keeping her mother's memory and the phase that she placed into the blessing helped her in every case. And she knows of this role model that her mother gave, and she goes back and finds her way back with the light that she was given within this skull
Yes.
and goes back to the original place of his stepmother.
Okay.
And from then on, he walks her talk, creates her own life, and becomes a mature lady. And one variation of Vasilis the Beautiful ends here, and of initiation, but there's another Vasilis the Brave, another variation, which the story continues, and she weaves her own story. And she becomes a weaver herself, and weaves beautiful white clothes of which the third mother character, whom she moves to, recognizes and takes the Tsar and shows this beautiful material. And of course, the Tsar says that he would like to have shirts, garments out of it, and he needs the person who weaved it, who was woven it. And the elderly lady, the good mother, good grandmother feature character, the third mother in the story, goes back home and asks Vasilis to sew this, and the garments are prepared, and the elderly lady takes them back, and of course the Tsar says that he would like to see the master of these garments who has sewn them, and then of course Vasilis is visited by the Tsar, and the Tsars just got into her liking, and that crash, of course, and they fell in love with each other. And this story ends in a way that they have found each other. They arrive into love, and of course they get married, and they live happily, even and ever after. So this story is I would say, the second part of the initiation, when after the menarche and the initiation of love, they found each other, and a mature woman is going to came out of the story, a queen actually, Tsaritsa, here in the Russian story. But this is not only the tale that I wanted to talk to you, but let's reveal its layers even more than I have done during trying to recap the story for you. So this was the preliminary slide, and I would like to come back to it so that we see that probably here with the etymology and into the goddess of regeneration and the rest of the parts we're going to go through with after having had Baba Yaga, Vasilisa story in a nutshell. And here I would like to draw your attention to the pathfinder aspect and the Vaishore meeting each other. Of course, the uninitiated girl is the pathfinder going into the unknown, which is represented by the forest, and the Vaishore is going to be the wise woman. As in all ancient cultures, the women were these and representing tribal wisdom and tradition, and of course they were respected for it. These women of older ages were familiar with the mysteries of birth and death, and of course life mysteries as such, and they were initiating all of us into them. They were qualified to care for sick and dying, and they were there to help everybody who needed to somehow getting back to normal through of their lives. And Baba Yaga is a personification of such a wise woman in the story. And I've chosen a Hecate as an illustration to it, showing the way at a kind of a crossroads, which is what Baba Yaga does in basically all the stories of hers, representing a Vaishore. Baba Yaga is also a regenerative goddess. If you go to the Slavic regions, then she's viewed as a prototype, actually a folkloric pattern infused into mythologies and fairy tales that can be found worldwide, of course under different names, but I'm sure that all cultures have a similar character of the goddess of regeneration, and usually in connection with the crone face of the goddess. And usually these kind of characters became the witches in our folklore later on. But that does not mean that they don't have or haven't preserved the goddess associations and corresponding symbolism with them, the ever-moving wheel of time and seasons with them. The Slavic inhabitants of Eastern Europe associated Baba Yaga with a seasonal divinity, and this is kept still alive even today. They believe that she lived in a sheaf of grain harvested once a year, and that the woman who tied the sheaf would give birth to a child that same year. So even this regeneration, but as you can see, goddess of creatrix is here, goddess of fertility is there. It's true for the Lithuanian and Russian mythology as well. It is done, and you can see here the birch tree, which has a meaning, and I'm going to come back to it soon. So as you can see, there's goddess, and one of a kind is Baba Yaga. But she was transformed into terrifying hag in Russian folklore and all around the cultures. They became witch-like woman. If you go to the Germanic Mother Holla, for example, if you go to the Hungarian Vasorú Baba, which is called the iron-nosed hag, actually the iron-nosed Baba. With a peculiar meaning, and somehow, of course, with the distortion of power, distortion of meaning, and they ceased to be benevolent, or they became usually wicked in their powers. But still, apart from this, having the features, and we should remember, and going beyond these surface features, and arrive to the ancient person as goddess. And you should see the mystery behind Baba symbols. Just a couple of them. If you read the story, the prominent goddess themes in these stories of her, and you can meet the sacred number of 3, of course, the cauldron I've mentioned, water, and the blood red horse, which is a clue to a woman's menstruation initiation, the womanhood phase of Vasilisa, for example. There is the ancestral magic of the doll appearing of Vasilisa, the birch forest itself, which is a goddess symbol in Eastern European cultures, and of course a symbol of regeneration and renewal with itself. And Baba is a gatekeeper. She holds the border between life and death. And of course, this is an initiation process, which is always coming together with completing an ordeal or the tests of one's patience, diligence, and brings one to Death's door and back again, of course. And this is what I've told you about Vasilisa. Some of the magical correspondences to the goddess, symbols, domain, animals, and offerings, and you can come back to the slides, and I suggest you listen to the story, read the story, and then come back to this talk again and see this symbolism again. Basically, this is why I put this slide for you again. But I would like to make some other points clear about Baba Yaga as a goddess, and of course being a mother goddess, feature, goddess of rebirth, a great teacher, Vaishur I've mentioned, and coming back to the crone features like the all-seeing, all-knowing, and all-powerful wisdom luminifiers. She is also a mistress of the forest and birds, and has the ability to transform into various animals. And of course has the ability to speak in tones, which are all typical features of the crone in our tales and mythologies. The places of initiations, the realms of the crone, of course can be the caves, and the labyrinths, which probably all of you have heard about, but that is also the forest. And when it comes to the Eastern European cultures, then the birch forest. This is I just put the picture, another Baba Yaga picture here. And of course, the whole court and mortar thing is itself giving its meaning to us and message about the rites of passage. because through the initiation phase with Baba Yaga, this innocent girl, Vasilisa, gets mature, gains the light, and brings it home. All symbols there of room symbols that I used with the cauldron, with the mortar, and of course with the scarlet lights, which takes us back to earlier cultures, especially the Scythians. And if you were in the Goddess Conference earlier years, I had a presentation about the Scythian queens and Scythian priestesses that I told about the messages of the skull, which is actually a grail symbol, and they used that person's skull as a chalice, and they put blood into it. That was part of blood treaties and blood contracts between the tribes usually, and in all kinds of ways. The skull and a cup which was made out of it was used, representing the room itself, and people were drinking from it, especially red wine in ceremonies, and they were offering to the goddess and offering to the earth mother, and they were pouring from this cup to the earth. And of course, this whole rites of passage thing, the fire and monarchy, gives us a clue about Vasilisa the Beautiful, what it is really about as an initiation story. Baba Yaga and the sacred tree is worthwhile symbol again, and you can come back to it and you can read this slide more, but I would like to emphasize one point of it. Usually in the tales of Baba Yaga, there are three Babas, so three kind of phases of the Baba, which is coming back in the Celtic culture as well, and which is also coming back in the three advisories of Vasilisa, coming back in the topic of the three horses, with the three mystical hands helping Baba Yaga. So all sorts of trees you can find all through the story. In my opinion, all strengthening the meaning, the symbolic meaning of the initiation, of the transformative tale, and the morphology of the tale going on, taking you by the hand from life and death and rebirth and all the initiation phases of feminine life. And here we can find the triple goddess features very well emphasized, the keeper of the altar and life and death, which Baba Yaga is, which we know from other tales of hers. And another year I was talking on the Goddess Conference about Baba, which is the Hungarian, the Maghari great goddess, the goddess, who is also the keeper of the water, of life and death, the Virgin Mother and Crone aspects personified in one. And also a goddess feature found in the tale and the story is that Baba Yaga is an accomplished weaver and frequencies lead at her wheel and weaving time, which is important to emphasize, I think, because this is what in the second variation of the story about Vasilisa shared, that she weaves her own story and she becomes a weaver herself. So she becomes an initiated, mature woman by the end of that story. Coming to Baba Yaga, the goddess of time, she is also, and there's another clue in the tale which talks about her, because she lives in a revolving hut, which is surrounded by 12 posts, of course, 12 skeletons there, representing the passage of time through the 12 months of the year. And the middle point is the hut, of course, which is the portal of with Baba Yaga to the other world, the whole territory of hers being the portal there. The three faces of the goddess are mentioned. The Russian tales tell us about Starshaya, which is the eldest, the middle, the Baba Yaga, and Mladshaya, the youngest. So all ages again, typical phases of the goddess are coming back to greet us. And there's another aspect I just love about Baba Yaga stories, which is about, of course, this are you doing the deed or fleeing from the deed question and completing the test of skill, which all initiation stories include. These stories give a person who completes the deed a bowl of wool, which then she or he can toss around. And if she follows this bowl of wool and of course the strap, then she finds her path, and there it leads. She's going to find the second phase, the next Baba Yaga phase, and she's going to give the second part of help. And then again, she moves on and has to find the third phase. And then she visits all the phases, and then she completes all the tasks, all the deeds, and all the phases of maturation, which is just magical, perfect. And I love so much that these still exist and we can find them and they can nourish our souls upon them. And another peculiar thing I wrote for you today, which not so many people know, not even Hungarians, I would say. It's about the daughters of Baba, the mother goddess, Maghari being the Hungarian nowadays. In our language, Baba means a midwife. And we have three kinds of Babas even up to today: the white, the red, and black. Sometimes some of the cultural heritage remembers it as green, but usually the red and green has the same task to do. It's about regeneration and powers. And we have these three Babas here, three kind of midwives who are midwives of life mysteries. And of course, the daughters of Baba, the greatest of all, the great Baba. I would say this is an additional meaning apart from the meanings of what we have heard in the Baba Yaga stories, where she appears as sister, mother, crone, and here we have a midwife and herbalist aspect of her, holding the medicine of family life and life mysteries in our cultures. And this is the culture of old Europe, the Proto-Indo-European era, which we have the cultural heritage of, and of which I am the guardian, and I love all of the goddess conferences to bring some bits and pieces of our heritage happily to you. Because I just love it so nicely. It demonstrates the healthy way of feminine archetypes in purposeful action, where they live together and where the Baba, or actually the woman herself, not just personifying goddess, but actually embodying the goddess herself and being the goddess. Some pictures I brought from Hungary, of course, earlier decades of some of these aspects of the Babas being herbalists, helping the medicine women, and even being there at the thresholds, like helping giving birth, and as well helping people to
in New York.
On the dance beds and on and on. What happened to all of these is the last point that I really would like to draw your attention to, because they were so nice, valuable traditions, as well as in Hungary, as well as all around in Eastern Europe, and as well as a part of Europe. But suddenly, of course,
So I didn't really look at
the times of patriarchy and
they were seeing Laura Harrington. I
that
gotta tell you the
all
little
these
nuances of my
so-called
life.
pagan
Sometimes
heritages
so much
became
happens I forget to tell
superstitious,
you.
and they became wretched, and they became something that we shouldn't, anybody should do. And of course, the witch
Greg
hunt
Bond,
gives its,
like his show
let's
last
say,
night, they were
brought its
talking about
result. And all
they were
these
talking
beautiful goddess tales
Bill
of
Welichka, Much
ours,
Music, because I think
having
they're
the
coming out with
initiations
a
in them
movie or
and with
something.
them,
Bill Welichka
had
has met
new,
every famous
I would say,
musician.
denotations
and
So negative meanings.
so I just
One of
commented on them. He's a
the
friend of
best
mine.
example of Hungarian tales
He's
is
loosely, but
Vasorubába,
actually
which
on Bill Wolichka's
if we
message
translate it
with
word
me,
by word means
I said, happy
that
friend anniversary,
a
and he
Baba,
said,
so
I'm not just
Baba,
your Facebook friend, I am your friend.
having an
And
iron
then on
nose.
Joanne Langlois'
And
post,
this
he
is the
wrote, she's
time
the
when
best.
these tales
Anyways,
were told to
so I
the
told
children
Greg I could
and
set them up.
frightened them of doing bad
And
things.
but this before I
And
said
this
that,
is a suitcase of a midwife that I brought to show to you, because
he
people
says, I said,
knew
did
and
I this
called
morning? I said,
the tools, the
last
iron
night, did I ever tell
tools
you how I
of
became friends with Bill
midwives,
Wolichka? No, but want to know. He
like
says,
the
I'm fascinated by you, Lori.
midwives,
You almost don't seem
or
real,
the
yet
hags
are so real.
knows,
You are a
iron
gift to me
knows,
from Gord
because
Downey. I feel
especially
this.
you can
I'm
see
so
the
blessed to know you
the
and
one
live through your music and passion.
at the
Our connection
bottom
is and
part of
was
the
strong
picture,
from afar, but now it will
really
grow.
looking
And I'm
like
thankful, grateful,
a
and look forward
nose
to my future
of
moving forward.
a crone.
Like that
And suddenly,
medium thing changed
these
him.
midwives
Next on my
who
bucket
had
list is golfing
through
with your man. How do I
abortions
make that
became
happen?
the
I said, oh,
Vasarubabas
he is
of
always
our
willing. His
staple
best friend and partner can
tales.
only golf once a
And of
week.
course, they took children
I said, that's got to be
and
the nice thing anyone's ever said, even though
the young
I am a
mothers
bit
lost their
boring.
children, and that was a bad part of the story, and
then I sent him the
it
thing
became a
about
frightful one.
I have a
And
screenshot
there was a
with
time
Bill
when,
Wolichka, how I became his
when
friend,
of
which I
course,
still think is funny to
19th
this day.
and 20th century
What came over me that
with
day.
all
And then,
medical advancements
and then,
and all the
funnier
male
even,
doctors coming in
at another time I was seeing
telling
Castro in
what to
Kingston,
do
and he was
and
there, and
how
so was Brett. So I introduced
a
the man
pregnant
Bill, who
woman
knows every
should
musician on earth, to
give
Brett.
birth instead of
I'm going to
women
ask
having each
Annika.
other. It was at its worst at around the 1950s, as it comes to Hungary, for example,
So who's playing tonight?
with all sorts of abortions. But we have our nasty stories, as all the cultures and all the countries have, about women helping other women who got pregnant and didn't want to keep that child. And these help included many poisonous stories, killings, murders. So I would say really bad stories, which are also wounds of ours. So not just the witch wound we should heal, but all the wounds which happened afterwards to us, where we lost our strengths and our connections to our wisdom of our own people, our own cultures, our own roots. So from sacred it became doomed, and this is the way back as well. Look at the pictures. Women gathering in the forest became, of course, doomed, and we should not do that. We were banned or to get things like that. And that is a revival. We come together in sisterhood, we celebrate, we stake our hands, and we collect herbal medicine again, our own medicine. That's again ultimate medicine. So this is a revival. So of course everybody has a choice in it. We can play hide and seek forevermore and pretend that we don't have the clue to our wisdom, and we maybe can stay wretched, suffering from all the illnesses and problems, and just die as the two sisters, stepsisters of Vasilisa in the tale, and the stepmother, of course, or actually just we can leave the stepmother's house without light in total darkness, jealousy, competing with our sisters for fear of the crown. So seeing eyes, the skeletons of our past, or we just simply do the deeds and complete our chores, heal our wounds, and become the person we were born to. And basically this is the point that I wanted to lastly to share with you, that it is time to, for example, with this presentation that you've been listening to, and there are 3 ways to work with, at least 3 ways to work with Baba Yaga, and you can come back to the slides and read it through and leave it as a home brew for you. And of course, doing the research and setting up an altar and leaving the initiation process of hers, and getting into the mysteries, life mysteries, and we can learn how to do them. And as for example, in Hungary, we We have our heritages, and being a guardian of them, I have my priestess training courses where we just help each other, the sisters who are coming after us, learn how they can be there as veishors for the rest of us. And in this, we become medicine women, we will become crowned in our own phases. And if we are not in that age yet, and we are not crowned yet by menopause, we are still having and can live out the archetype of our crones in us, and we can be the veishors for everybody else who are just coming after us in our footsteps, finding their own ways. So I would say we basically do not really have choice because we have made our choices long ago, all of us who are here in the Goddess Conference. And no question of are we doing the deed or doing the deed? We do the deed because this is what we do. Because we are at this point of herstory when we are the living herstory. We are the living embodiment of the goddess. An initiation is taking place, I would say, for the whole humankind. But we are already not the innocent and not the newborn ones, and we shouldn't pretend to be. So we should go back to the time of the collective heroine and all the archetypes to dig them up and embody them and become the initiatrix and actually the initiatrices and become the veishors and help each other to find ways. So I would say it is high time for us to write in our wisdom and share our wisdom. And that makes me so happy to be together with you, because the participants of the Goddess Conference in person or in online are always the ones who want to go ahead, want to hold up the light and show the way ahead, which always takes the responsibility because we are the ones who are first going through our own transformations, and which is always hard. We're always dying.
I'm just going to quickly tell you.
But we're always
it was
reaching
so
the
painful.
point
They
when
told
we
us
got
half of us to
reborn
go
and
upstairs,
find our own ways.
and I was walking up the stairs, and I thought, I'm going
that
to
is
fall down.
wisdom, actually,
I
when
know it's coming
we
from that
can
one
walk
muscle
our
in the
talk.
tendons, and there's
This
something
is what
wrong
I
with
would
the
like
tendons.
to
And I was
I would
very
say,
unstable
not to
carrying two
suggest,
glasses,
but
and
to
I was
tell
in so
you
much
and
pain.
invite you.
But
So let's be
everybody
the
was behind me, so I
initiatrices
just
of
sucked
this
it
new
up and
world,
went
and
upstairs.
let's be the
And
midwives of this new world
on the way down, it
that
was
we
still
just
painful.
give
But then I
birth
had an
to.
extra session where they
Thank
put
you very
their
much for
hands
your
on my
attention.
shoulders, and
And
two people came
you can
up, and it
find me
was
on Instagram
Jackie
and the
and
Messenger, and you
Andrew.
can post me
And
any questions if you have.
yeah, and
And
I
I'm
got
very
up,
happy
and
to
then by the
meet you at the
time I
Goddess
got home, I
Conference
didn't
in
have any pain in
person.
my feet, and
I
before that,
hope
I
we
could
can
barely
meet
walk
sometimes
from
here or there.
where, like, the
Take
couch
care
to the
and
door
be the
in my house.
initiatrix of your
So I
life.
woke up today wondering how it was
Thank
going to
you.
be,
Goodbye.
and I don't feel any pain when I'm walking on it. I just don't even understand. But really, really weirdly and oddly, I am the worst when I'm at home, because I think what it is I am sorry, I'm taping something. Um, because I'm